Hey,
Hold up. I came ready. Whenever you jam the Commodores.
I'm maybe just a foolish dreamer, but I don't care.
Just the way you said it.
Cause I know my
Happiness is waiting
somewhere.
somewhere.
I'm searching
Searching
for
for
that
that
silver
silver lining,
Aren't we all?
risings that I've never seen. Lord, allow me to take just a moment, just one. Dream my
That's
dream,
it.
baby.
That's it. Let's hear it.
Dream my dream.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Welcome to another Hot 99. It's one of the coolest by far. And you're in for a treat tonight because our guest is none other than Mr. Alvin Johnson. So put him up, put them together, and welcome. So welcome to the Hot 99-ish, Alvin. Good to have you on here, sir.
Hey, Danny, my pleasure, man. Thank you for the honor of being invited. I love to go in the rooms where I'm invited.
I always tell people it's like, it depends on what you get invited to, right? Sometimes there are parties you don't want to get invited to, but then, 9 times out of 10, if you're being invited, it's because the universe and God is talking to you. They want to show you something, So it's always good to answer the invitation. So I'm honored that you're here and really appreciate it. We start off, I know you're brand new into the Apex, crew and everything. Just in terms of Alvin just joined us here in Apex Executives, and he's a great addition to the team. He's kind of on the same trajectory already, and is very well accomplished and very successful entrepreneur. But we want people to get to know you a little bit more. And so why don't you go and open up and just kind of tell everybody about who you are, why you do what you do, and what you came to bring.
Well, man, I'll tell you, Danny, thanks again. The Apex Group, I have never been more inspired by truth and transparency than being in this group. Not many guys will tell you that, man, I have literally just screwed my whole life up. But in this group, you will find a lot of guys, everybody that I've encountered thus far, that'll tell you where they screwed up, how they screwed up, and why they think they screwed up, and how they're trying to get better about it so they don't screw up again. So first off, Danny, to give a plug to Stewman and his team and you and Drewby and everybody that's a part of this culture, that has developed this culture, I thank you guys because it's helped me in 30 days already. I can't imagine what it would do to somebody that literally came in and went all in and just listened. If you don't do nothing but listen and learn and soak it up, it'll change your life forever. So I'm glad to be a part of that. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Alvin. Yeah, like anything, it takes a lot of work, but it always starts with that why.
Yeah.
So what you could be anything in the world. You still can be anything in the world.
Yeah.
So why do you do? Let's first talk about what you do, and then let's talk about why you do it.
All right. Well, some people call me Alvin Hope Johnson. I am 56 years old. I am a husband. I am a father. I'm a grandfather. Got 5 beautiful grandkids, and I can't believe I'm that old and saying that, but here I am. Man, what I do, Dan, is we do affordable housing. So we provide people with an opportunity to have a place to live where they normally would not live. That's one segment of our business. A lot of those residents that live in those apartments have Section 8 vouchers. So what we do is we go into a depressed area. We buy a 300-unit apartment complex for $30,000, $40,000 a unit. We put $20,000 a unit in it. So immediately we've created value. We've given the people a place where they weren't living before because we're spending $20,000 on an apartment. So you can imagine what we can make it look like. So not only are we doing good for the resident, but then we can take that investment of that 30,000 a unit plus the 50,000 a unit and lease this thing up and run it to where it will generate a value of $80,000 to $100,000 a door. And then we go in and refinance. So when you talk about the Burr method of real estate, where you buy, rehab, refinance, and repeat, that's what we do it, but we do it with more doors than one. So we take a 300 unit deal that we just bought. We just sold one last Friday that we paid $6,700 a unit. Yeah, it was bad. The city was about to condemn it. They were about to put all the people out. We went in and we spent $29,000 a door on this thing. We sold it last week for $11 million. So we turned a $1.6 million deal purchase with $5 million of hard investment into an $11 million transaction. So we make money through the process of renovating it because we have our own construction company. We syndicate the deals with investors and pay them an 8 to 10% perf on their money. And then we split the returns of the equity with them. And I think this group got 25% of the upside equity. So they made about 140% return on their investment. And we pay the returns out, we pay the prefs out quarterly. And then when we refinance the deal or sell it, we pay the residual equity. So that's what we do. And we call it doing good while doing good. So we're doing good because we're taking people and giving them a place to live where they really would not have an opportunity to live that good. And then we take investors' money and they want to do good because everybody wants to have a common thread of helping somebody, right? So when you can feel good about investing $50,000 as a minimum to up to $5 million, whatever you want to write the check for, and get an 8 to 10% preferred return on your investment plus 25% of the equity. So now you're doing good while doing good and everybody's winning. That's a recipe for success. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing that we do is we're taking this model and now we're going to go and construct new apartments with the same business model, but instead of spending $50,000 to $60,000 a unit on buying it and rehabbing it. And I'll tell you why the shift, Danny. Multifamily real estate has gotten so hot that here in Dallas, Texas, a deal that we paid $18,000 a door for in 2014, today is worth $90,000 a unit. Somebody's going to buy that for $90,000 a unit. Well, guess what we have an opportunity to do? We have an opportunity to go build some new apartments for $100,000 a unit or $109 a square foot and have them where they are so energy efficient that they will operate at a 12% factor. I mean, if I collect $1,000 in rent, it costs me $120 to operate this unit. I pay my mortgage and it doubles the return because of the quality of construction. So now we're going to go out and build units and we're going to have some of our students, because now we have an education platform that Apex is helping me develop and coaching my salespeople on with your team, Jose and those guys, right? To help us sell seats to this. So not only can you be a student and you can learn how to do it, but a part of your investment for being a student will make you an investor into the deal. So you'll actually get paid to learn how to do this, and then you can go out and build your own deal once we're done with this. So what I do is I give people opportunities for housing, but more importantly, I believe I'm a dealer of hope. Because if I can dream this wild and crazy stuff from where I came from, then you can surely do it too.
So let's talk about that too. Let's talk about where you came from. Because, you know, like everybody, we all start at the place that we originated, right? We start
Right.
at that one place, like whether it's predestined or predetermined or whatever, like we're equipped with it to get through whatever it is. And most of us make it out of that. So like, where were you? Where were you when you started? Where was that place that you came from?
Man, I was born and raised in Beaumont, Texas. That is about 80 miles east of Houston on I-10. So down on the bottom of I-10, really close to Louisiana. I graduated high school, barely. You know, my mom, dad, grandparents, they were all teachers and educators, and they come home from school. Well, while my dad was at home, you know, they come home and tell me to shut up and go in the back because they done dealt with 500 kids all day. So I was the dude that got thrown in the closet when he got home because I had the big mouth. And then I guess my man got tired of it because by the time I was 11, he decided he didn't want no more parts of that shit, and he left and chased 4 or 5 girlfriends and got married to all of them. So you know, I've got about 500 stepbrothers and sisters because he got married about 10 times. And to show you how smart he was, he's been an alcoholic his whole life. Well, he's dead now. But, you know, I asked him when we had an opportunity to rekindle our relationship about a year before he died, I said, Daddy, how did it feel, man, when nobody came to your football games and shit like that when you were growing up? And he said, Alvin, nobody's ever asked me that question. I don't know where you get this from. You're so smart to ask me that. But I can tell you that the reason I have drowned my sorrows in an alcohol bottle for over 60 years is because I didn't know how to deal with that. So One of the things that I have gotten, again, back to Apex in a transparent group, is you've got all these 8 personality guys that are out just slaying it, killing it, and crushing shit. But on the other side of the fence, there are these vulnerable guys that have realized that they have fucked up in life and they want to be different because they don't want to be like their sorry ass dads or whatever. And so that's the group of guys that are in Apex, and I'm sure there's some dynamic women in here as well. But I think the guys are going to lead the charge, right? And so this is a group of Apex that I'm glad to be a part of. So that's where I came from. I came from a broken home. And I'll tell you, I was broken. I was molested at 9 years old. So one of our neighborhood guys raped me at 9 years old. You know, so that's not something I'm proud of, but it's definitely something that helped create who I am today. And then, so barely graduated high school, probably because my mom was a teacher there. So they didn't want to embarrass her anymore than to have me get kept back, because I'd already gone to jail from high school a couple of times, and, you know, handcuffs with the old perp walk down the long ass sidewalk to the police car. And my mom was a teacher there. So, you know, they didn't want me to embarrass her anymore. So they just let me out of school. Not because I was dumb, but they didn't know how to teach me because, you know, they didn't have ADHD and Ritalin and all that shit back then. So they just either throw you in a closet and you figure it out, or they just didn't deal with you. And so anyway, that's how I got out of high school. I got married at 17. First time I was deathly afraid to be by myself. So you talk about insecurities of being raped as a kid and your dreams stolen and all of those things that when that happens to a kid, you can't just imagine the shit that goes through somebody's head. I don't even, and it's so funny, Danny, I didn't really even remember that happening to me until I was about 38 years old. So I put up a mental block that it never happened. And then, you know, 20 years ago, or 18 years ago, 15 years ago, I woke up and went, damn, that happened to me. And then I started thinking about all of the things that has happened in my life as to why I tried to quit everything that I've started, as to why I've quit marriages, 3 marriages I've quit, because every time something got hard, I quit. So guess what now? I never quit. But anyway, so got married at 17. By the time I was 19, I didn't go to course no college, right? I started knocking on doors as a painter's helper, and this guy hired me as a painter's helper and gave me a job. And for 2 years, I worked painting baseboards and sanding sheetrock in $1 million houses in Beaumont, Texas in 1980, 83, 84. So just your guy that was, you know, man, I remember saying, when I make $6 an hour, we're going to be crushing it. You hear me? Because they were paying me $4 and I just, $2 an hour, man, we moving up. And I remember getting $8 and $10 and saying, man, $2 more, man, we're going to be crushing it. Well, 2 years later, this guy went out of business and I had to eat. So I started knocking on doors and saying, hey, I'll paint your house for $200. So I knocked on, and I was really good. And so I knocked on the right door one day, and this guy said, hey, I remember you. Your name's Alvin. You used to work for Richard. And hey, I'm doing this hotel over here. Can you get a crew? I said, yeah, I can get a crew. He said, well, good. You can be my paint contractor. So I was 20 years old, and I went from knocking on doors to being a millionaire in 1 year with over $1 million in the bank at 21 years old, and wondering why all these grown-ups were floundering and, you know, their life was falling apart, because I'm a 20-year-old dope fiend smoking weed all day long with $1 million in the bank. Well, little did I know that a fool and his money are quickly parted. And the interest rates, of course, back then were in the 12, 14% and climbing to 18%. And by 1989, interest rates were 18, 19%. I couldn't buy a construction job. We had lived a couple of years off of our money, and I had sold everything that I had. And on my son's 3rd birthday in 1989, I tried to commit suicide because we had no more money and I couldn't feed him. We literally ate breakfast, the last breakfast. This is the last bowl of oatmeal we've got, and we're going to share it. And our lights are getting cut off today, and we're getting kicked out of the house today. And y'all have a great day at work. That's what I told my wife when she went to work, and dropped my son off at the daycare, and I kissed him and hugged him. And I went around the corner to my in-laws' house and put a 38 to my head and pulled the trigger twice, and it didn't go off until I dropped it. And then I took a bottle of nitroglycerin pills, and I don't know if you know what those are, but they're about the size of this pinhead, and they are taken by heart patients to go into their bloodstream and explode to make your heart pump blood. So I thought it'd be a great idea. My father-in-law at the time was a heart patient. I took a bottle of them. I said, good, this will blow my heart up. And and it sounded really good. And I thought I was going to be out of here, but I laid down, Dan, and I said, well, God, man, if you've got a plan for my life, then I'm sorry, and please have mercy on me. And if you don't have a plan for my life, please have mercy on me, because I don't want to burn in hell. But I'm already on my way, so it's your choice. And I woke up 10 days later in the hospital, which is great, right? Here I am. And I said, boy, you are a fucking loser. You couldn't even kill yourself. So from that, Danny, there's no place but up. So my family nursed me back to health, literally for about 6 months, because those drugs had a real major effect on my psyche for about 6 months. They threw me an MHMRA, which is the crazy house. And they told me that, oh, you're a watered estate now. And guess what? People, once they become a watered estate, never get out of here. And so I was doomed for a life of MHMRA, crazy house, and people with their heads fucking spinning around. And that's what it looked like to me anyway while I was in there. And, you know, straight jackets and padded rooms, and literally, for real. After about a month, my mom snuck a Bible in, and because you couldn't have that there. And I remember Danny opening this Bible, and all the words looked like just they were moving. And I'm seeing it now. But after about a week of just continually opening the Bible and turning the pages and just saying, God, man, just help me, help me, help me, the 23rd Psalms appeared in the middle of the page. And not that it appeared, but that's what I was able to see. And I read that every day for about 2 weeks. And then they let me out. After about a month, I went before the judge and he said, son, I'm going to give you a chance. Well, thank you. Well, I wasn't a son then. I was 21 or so, 22. Let me see, my son. So I was 24 then. But that's the second chance I've had. I'll go back to a little bit before 15 years old, chasing my dad around, one of his, his wives and my stepbrothers. And one of the groups of guys were, they thought they were Bonnie and Clyde or Jesse James, and they went and robbed a whole bunch of stores. And they used my car one night, and I was in the backseat of the car, high, passed out. And when I woke up in jail that day, they had robbed 3 stores that night. And when I went to court at 15, which was another sense of embarrassment for my mom, Beaumont, Texas, little bitty deal, front page news, Alvin Johnson, arrested for robbing stores in Beaumont, Texas. And so the judge gave me a break. He said, hey, man, I'm going to give you a break. I'm going to give you 10 years of probation. And if you do this, you'll be okay. But if I ever see you in my courtroom again, guess what? It's going to be hell to pay. So from raped at 9, dad left me at 11. And see, that's how most kids look. We don't see that he left my mom. He left me. I was in trouble at the law with police at 15, could have went to prison for 30 years. And then by 18, I was married. And by 21, I had my son. By 24, I literally tried to commit suicide. And by 26, I started driving a truck and did that for a couple of years. And then I had a job for 5 years. And then I moved to Houston in 1996 after working in a chemical plant for 3-4 years. Driving a truck led me into a chemical plant, making a delivery. And I saw these guys sitting on their ass making 3 times $20 an hour, right, on a holiday. And I went, how do I get a job making $75 an hour? So they told me, go to this trade school in Houston or Pasadena, and you take this chemo operator course, and you can get a job here or in one of these chemical plants. So I finished the course. And I happened to be at the right place at the right time because one of those plants had just fired a black dude and they had to hire another one. So I walked right in the door and got a job making 20-some bucks an hour. And I thought I was doing it great, making $70,000, $80,000 a year in 1996. And it was the most miserable thing ever for me because I worked 12 hours a day, 14 days a month, graveyards and rotating shifts. And we made plastic pellets, and plastic pellets were not going to change the world. They were the same plastic freaking pellet every day in and day out. And I just could not be inside of those gates until I died. So I got back into real estate and I started renovating houses. And then this guy told me, he heard my radio commercials and said, hey man, you must be killing it, but surely you got some customers that need mortgages. And I'm like, what's a mortgage? And so he explained to me what a mortgage was. So I started doing second mortgages for people that needed their house refinanced. And then that second mortgage went to me opening my first mortgage company in 1996 called Icon Mortgage. And man, we ran that thing till 99. I made so much freaking money in the mortgage business. And then in 2000, my life fell apart again because I think that was my second marriage or something. And she left when she thought the money was running out. And so I moved to Dallas. Broke as shit, no credit in 2000. And but I always knew I know how to buy real estate. So I bought a house in DeSoto, 6,000 square foot house with a basement, and I paid myself to renovate it, and I sold it for 600,000, put 200,000 in the bank, and baby, I'm back. And I started another mortgage company in 2000 and about 2001. And I ran that till 2007, till the next mortgage crisis, made a bunch of money and did the same old dumb shit with it and thought I was investing in myself and investing in the wrong people. And by 2007, I had started my first nonprofit, and where I realized that one of my strong suits is education and talking to people, and I understand real estate, so I wanted to educate people on real estate. So I was good at that in the mortgage business. So I started a nonprofit to try to take some of my proceeds and only pay my fair share of taxes. That's all I wanted to do, my fair share. Anything other than that, I wanted to use the laws of the land to preserve some of my wealth. So I met this guy that owned 16,000 apartments, all under a nonprofit umbrella, and he told me he would help me. So keep in mind, this is 2006, 2007, my life had fallen apart again. Chick left, mortgage company, interest rate, mortgage crisis of 2007, 2008. And so I meet this guy and he tells me he'll help me in 2007. And I called him, Danny, from that first meeting. It took me about 13 months, but I literally called, text, and emailed this guy every week for a year until he answered the phone in 2008 and said, Alvin, I'm tired of you calling me, texting me, emailing me. And he called me by name. So he knew it was me and said, if you want to know what I do, you can come to Amarillo for 30 days and I'll put you up for 30 days and I'll show you what we do. And then you can go home and do your thing. Well, I found the biggest suitcase I could find. And in March 1st, 2008, I went to Amarillo, Texas, as a servant. I told this guy to sharpen his pencil, shine his shoes, whatever it took for me to be in the room with him. Here I am, 40-something years old, going to be a servant to make somebody else's dream come true. So that's where the power happened. Because 13 months later, because I didn't leave, he committed suicide, another tragedy. And I was there after having really given 150% of myself to this cause. I was one of the last few employees that he didn't fire. And I became the president of $1.5 billion company that owns 16,000 apartments through the service. So I went in through the kitchen and became a servant and became the president. That's a lot like Joseph in the Bible, but yeah. Pit, palace, prison palace. That's been my life. And so I learned this business from $1,000 an hour attorneys, unwinding $1.5 billion company that owns 16,000 apartments. After spending the first year there of going to every property and understanding why this doesn't work with the maintenance guy, why the managers are having problems with this, understanding why this kind of development didn't work in this city or in this neighborhood. So he gave me the ability to learn that on his dime, starting out as a volunteer. After 90 days, he gave me $60,000 a year. So he gave me $5,000 a month. And then 13 months to the day, he committed suicide on April 1st, 2009. And I became the president of that deal and walked it out for 2 years. And after I got fired, after the bankruptcy was over with, all the properties were slated for sale. We wrote a bankruptcy plan that nobody liked because mine protected the integrity of the organization. So me and 5 misfits wrote $1.5 billion bankruptcy plan for this organization that should have been approved because everybody would have gotten paid through the same model that I told you of refinancing and the Burr method. We were doing it with assets that we already own, but they didn't think I had enough experience. Go figure. Volunteer. Where does nigga come from, right? And so we've taken that same business model, that same acumen, 10 years later, after I've got fired in 2011, today at Hope Housing Foundation, and we go out and buy apartments, use the Burr method, and today our portfolio is valued over $125 million in a short 8 years. and we're going to go and triple that within the next 3 years. So that's what I do. That's how I do it. Why do I do it? I love the idea of giving back. I love giving people something that they didn't think they deserved. I love helping people make money. I love making people's dreams come true, or being a catalyst for dreams to come true. And that's who I am. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity of everything that I've had to go through to get here to be able to do this.
I mean, you got me choked up in a couple spots. I ain't gonna lie, because that's there's a lot of heavy stuff in there.
It is.
Like there's a lot of stuff, like people don't come back from that. They get stuck. They go into drugs. They get locked up in mental institutions. They stay in jail.
Yeah. All of those chances that there's no way I should be sitting here at the helm of this organization if it wasn't but for the grace of God.
So, like, what was that for you? Like if you're looking back at your life, it's like somebody came through with a blazing sword, just started slashing and burning over your life. But what has been the thing that has resonated throughout that? Because you tell the story as if you're viewing it, because obviously you've been able to separate the emotions from that moment, those times. We didn't even talk about the suicide attempts, like, 2 times, click, and you're still like that's God's over your life. Like
I'm persistent. 1 click wasn't enough. Let's do it again. And that's not enough. Let's go take a bottle of nitroglycerin pills. That'll do it.
That's like, okay, I'm gonna show you. So, like how were you able to process that? Did you process all that? Obviously, the circumstance from when you were 9 is unfortunate in terms of like forgetting it though that long and like building up that wall. Like, is that how you progressed and handled a lot of that going throughout your life?
Danny, I don't know, man. I wasn't smart enough to know that's what I was doing until I realized and woke up that it had happened. So that was probably God's way of protecting me, right? From myself. So, you told me earlier, man, you don't look like you're 56. Well, God's been a whole lot better to me than I've been to myself, right? So that may have been his way of protecting me because what would have happened if I had known or remembered those previous 18 years or while my kid was growing up, or who knows what would have happened. I don't. So there was not something I decided to do. I have been the luckiest guy in the world where I just started blazing a fucking trail, man. And fortunately, God has gone before me and not let me run off the cliff. Because I've tried to do it to myself so many times. Not trying, just I have nothing else to do. So if I'm gonna do it hammer down. And fortunately, all those walls I've run into just haven't crushed my head yet.
So. Well, I love you sharing that. You referenced something that's very common. I mean, you think they would outlaw a couple of things like divorce, like there should be higher penalties on divorce, right? They should make that like a liability. Like that seems to be an offset, but and
it
I'm
is
not
a liability.
Like it's just
so many houses and divorces.
And again, like thinking abundantly, we can always get it back. And the way that men versus women are with earning power and the position and status in society, like absolutely, we need to take care and honor our commitments and take care of our families and put them first, no matter what, like whether it's over or it's not. But
and Danny, that's the first time I believe that my dream was stolen. So as a kid at home, before being raped, when my dad was there, he was a musician, and the band played in the garage, 3 nights a week. They were practicing. So, man, I was teaching myself to play the piano. I taught myself to play the guitar. I taught myself to play the saxophone. I played in a band in junior high and high school. I played saxophone and tuba. So I taught myself all of those things. And then when an old man gets a wild hair up his ass that he wants a different girlfriend and he twists off from his family and he leaves, he destroys that kid's dream in his life and all of that shit. And he jerks it from under him because he wants to go get his piece sucked by another chick. And that's the harsh reality of how most men make their decisions, including their families.
So
and
let's
think about it like that. Here's a kid, and I had a brother who's 8 years older than me. So I guess dad thought, shit, I done got one of them motherfuckers out the house. Now's the time to go. And but
this was all enough he can fend for himself.
Right, he'll figure it out. Well, fortunately, right, there was the grace of God, because that's the only thing that has kept me. only. Mom didn't have she didn't have a tribe of good friends. You know, we talk about today community and family of choice and who we choose to be around, and you know, they'll help keep you out of the ditch. Mom didn't have that. You know, mom and dad had their sets of friends together, and dad stole all the friends and sold the house from under and cashed in all the life insurance. So the day we got literally put out of the house that she raised us in, we had nothing to do. And here he was with his girlfriend around the corner, literally moved around the corner from where me and my mom landed. Well, anyway.
So let's talk about that though, because like that's a constant theme. I talk to a lot of people in our network in Apex and outside of Apex, men and women, and it's equal. And it's you know, like I think when you have that channel that's open and people tell you things, like they share some really hard things, but there are a lot of things that you're describing. But as a man who's been through it, as a man who is 56 years old, who's a father and a grandfather and an ex-husband, who's been through the ups and the downs and the roller coasters and the gold mines and the pit stops and with the jagged spikes sticking out, like, what would you tell somebody going through that process right now, or even contemplating that right now? Because there is somebody right now that's married, they've been married 14, 15, 20 years. Yep. And they're like, man, you know what? I think she's about ready to like get rid of me. Like I need to start insulating myself, or you know what? I can't stand this fool. He's cheating on me, or like whatever the case is. So like what is your perspective on that?
Well, I'll tell you, Danny, one of the things that Keith Craft, our pastor, talks about a lot is choose your hard. It's hard being here. Okay. It's going to be hard when you're living in a trunk because she kept the house, right? So,
that's right.
Man, raising these kids is hard, or putting up with this clown is hard. Well, choose your hard. That's the best piece of advice I have today. And don't quit. Because, you know, just because you thought you were getting married for one reason 5, 10, 15 years ago, and we've grown apart. Well, guess what, man? Suck it up. You know, just God's got so many freaking whining excuses of why shit don't work, or why she's not the right person, or why, man, Danny, life's too short to tie. Keith always says the best way to live is to act your way into a feeling instead of feeling your way into an action. Mm-hmm. So if the marriage you have is not the one you want, then maybe if you'll act like you should be acting, you'll probably wind up with the one that you want, right? If I don't feel like going to the gym, but I promise you, if I get up and go every day, I'll probably feel better, and I might feel like going one day. Maybe not, but maybe. So it's just choosing your heart, and so it's hard going to the gym, but it's hard being 500 pounds and can't get out of bed when you're 60.
Yeah. I like that. You got to choose your pain. That's good.
Choose it.
I like it. So simplistic. I was waiting. I was like, oh, here it comes. And then I'm like, no. Oh,
I'm not that smart.
No,
and Drewby posted this thing the other day that I have coined. I'm going to give him credit this time, but the next time is for me. Everything we want is on the other side of what we don't want to do.
Do the hard shit. Do the hard shit first. Right.
And so you asked me, how did I come through that? How did I wind up here? Man, I'll tell you, it was after I started this work that I'm doing now, 2013, I looked up, Dan, and we had about 20 employees. And I said, oh my God, literally, God, I got people following me and I'm not a leader. And I need somebody to show up that I can pay to just take this company and lead the people. And nobody showed up. So I had to become that guy. So I started reading books, man. I was not a reader at all. I probably had never read one book all the way through. So the way I do stuff, I wanted to learn how to read, or not learn how to read, but I wanted to read. So I went and took a photo reading course so that I could read 10,000 words a minute, and I can devour a book in about 15 minutes with comprehension.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's amazing. Paul Sheely is the SCHEELE. Paul Sheely has a photo reading course that teaches you how to, mind's so powerful. You can think about this, that you can think about driving home yesterday, and it's almost like going into self-hypnosis. where if you were being hypnotized about an accident that happened on the corner of 121 in Custer, and you were at the red light, you don't even know what you saw, but somebody can hypnotize you and pull out everything that happened because you literally saw it. That's the way the photo reading works, because your brain is taking a picture of all these words and you don't even know that you need it. But I learned how to do that because I wanted to devour books. So I started with John Maxwell, and I've read hundreds of books in the last 4 years of this kind of stuff. So I became a student of self-improvement and motivation and tenacity, and which is why Apex resonated with me so much. Because man, if anybody's got enough excuses to be a piece of shit, I got them.
Yeah, and you didn't even go down maybe even 20% of that road.
And I may be a piece of shit to some people, but I don't think of myself that way. But I really have enough excuses to where I could tell myself that it's okay for me to be a piece of shit because of all the things that have happened to me.
But you choose not to. Why is that?
Oh, because I'm not a victim. And again, I could choose to do that, and it would not serve me well, because I'd probably be homeless under a bridge, because I've been very close to homeless. When I moved to Dallas and didn't have no place to live, oh shit, I'll go buy a house. But what if I didn't have that experience of buying a $400,000 house with no money and no credit? Just I would have been homeless. I don't know, man. It's been an amazing ride. So now, Dana, we bottle all of these experiences up, and I love to share it. So we share that through our boot camp. We share that with talking to you. We share that with the guy that may be sitting on the fence thinking about committing suicide, because I've seen that from both sides. I've seen it from the guy that wanted to do it, and then I woke up from it and saw what it did to my family. And then I saw it from a guy that tried to do it, who I was very close with, and it succeeded. And I saw how it tore his family apart, and the business and the company, and about 500 employees and investors that had invested, hundreds of millions of dollars into this company. So I saw that suicide deal from both sides. So I share this story to maybe get that guy off of the fence. What if I had not been afraid and fear? What if I had not been afraid to tell Steve that, man, I know what you're going through, not on your level, but it doesn't work? What if I had been strong enough in my convictions to share that with him? Today I am. Back then I wasn't. That's all I know.
But you're sharing that message here. So that's powerful. Before we got a few more minutes, I want to hit on the gratitude. So we'll kind of go through like the G code and everything.
Let's do it.
We'll start with gratitude. Tell me about the things and the people you're grateful for.
Things. First of all, I'm very grateful for Jesus and for God, for the grace that He's bestowed upon me in my life. That's first. I'm grateful for the family of choice, the people that I choose to do my life with, my Apex group, my people here in my office, the family that is partly family of origin, but the people that I choose to do life with. And then, man, I'm grateful that we live in a great country like America, where a guy like me that has no rhyme or reason where I should be has the ability and opportunity to help change other people's lives through housing. One of the most important, most critical things that anybody on the planet needs and would love to have. And I get to be a catalyst for people in housing. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all the lessons that I've taught myself through dumb shit I've done. And I'm grateful for all the lessons that God has allowed me to live through. And I'll say this one thing, Pastor Keats made this thing the other day, and he talked about how God is not in control of certain situations. And you will go, well, how is God not in control? Well, the question is, have we given God control? So if we haven't fully given God control, then no, God's not in control. And the other side of that coin was, he said that in relation to a conversation he was having with one of his friends about how the things that he was going through was God's will for his life. And Keith said, no, that's not God's will for your life. Everything that you're going through right now, is in direct correlation to that dumbass decision you made 3 years ago that God probably told you not to make. So if you had not made that decision, you wouldn't be going through this. So it really proves that God is not in control, because if he was in control and you had given him control, you wouldn't have made that decision, and then you wouldn't be going through this stuff right now. So when we can really simplify our life down to, like Ryan says, man, there are only 7 colors and 10 numbers, and we screw everything else up in the middle.
Amen. Amen to that. Let's talk about genetics.
Yeah.
So working out and staying healthy, obviously your body's had the shit kicked out of it
Yep.
by your own hands, your
Yep.
own intentions, but like how you living now? Like what's in your diet? Like you have certain foods that are kryptonite, or do you eat pretty healthy, you know, being your other 5 kids and five grandbabies?
I'm learning. So I'm 220. So I'm not overweight. I'm learning what's good for my body now. I just took a test the other day about to see what my body likes and what it doesn't like. So am I gluten intolerant? So wheat was off the charts for me, and pork is not good for me. And so there are a few things that are not good for me. So I'm really feeling now, Danny, that I would much rather spend $800 to $1,000 a month doing vitamin shots and IV drips and things like that to be on the front end of my health than have to spend $5,000 a month 10 years from now trying to get healthy. So that's where I am mentally right now. Starting that, my workout of choice has always been Bikram hot yoga. It forces you to think. It's one of the most strenuous cardio workouts I've ever done in 90 minutes. And it's done in 105 degrees and 40% humidity. And the whole premise behind the yoga is to control your breathing. So not only are you getting the most strenuous workout ever in doing that, but it's in a environment that is conducive for cleaning your pores out, sweating, the humidity, and then it forces you to focus on you and what you're doing in the moment. So there are no outside influences in that workout. And so I've done that for about the last 8 years. And now I am getting back mentally prepared to go and be a part of my yoga community on a regular basis again. I hadn't gotten there yet. And I know it's FYE and all my excuses and all my reasons why I'm not and haven't, but I'm almost there. So that when I commit this time, it'll be a part of a lifestyle.
I could see you being a yogi. You'd be a badass yogi. You know that?
I know it. I enjoyed it. And at one point I got so much into it, I wanted to open a yoga studio, but I couldn't figure out how to peel away for 9 weeks to go to wherever Bikram is to take his training. I don't have a desire to do that anymore, but maybe my next house, I'll build me a yoga room in it.
Hey, that'd be badass. You just make a little auditorium. We'll all come do yoga with you.
That's it, right?
We can do like workouts with Mark Z and do yoga with you. So every time there's an Apex event.
That's right.
So, that's awesome. All right, so let's hit G3, the grind.
The grind.
Yeah, let's talk about grind. So how are you? How do you like you've already gone through many different iterations of businesses and experience, and you've got a wealth of knowledge and things like that, from door knocking to, just putting together multi-million-dollar deals. So, what's that look like for you right now?
Well, I'll tell you. I hear this term a lot about serial entrepreneurship, right? Oh, I do this and I do that and I do a lot of this and a lot of that, and I understand multiple streams of income. I get it. That has never been my strong point. I had to focus on one thing and one thing only to make it work before I did anything outside of that. So everything that I've done, with the exception of driving a truck and working in that chemical plant, has been around real estate my whole life, everything. So from selling paint sales to selling mortgages, to doing apartments, it's all been real estate. So I have had a laser focus for that and wouldn't even talk to anybody outside of, hey man, I got this. Good, thank you, but it's not for me. So I've done that, Danny, over the last 40 years. I mean, since I've been 17, nothing but real estate until this year. And so now we got an e-commerce business that's doing a couple $100,000 a month through Amazon, which is really cool to be able to make money and not touch it at all. But this education thing is the thing that I'm more excited about than anything, because now and so it's a grind. So now we're starting another business. Oh, okay, yeah, it's great. I can just share my knowledge, but no, to have a business, you got to have a staff, you got to have a sales team, You got to train them. They got to make sure that they're committed. You got to have content. So now here's another part of the grind that it takes to just feed the main engine of housing, right? Because it takes all of these, takes a construction company, either you're gonna hire one or you're gonna own one. It takes a management company, either you're gonna own one or you're gonna hire one. It takes content delivery to be able to have Facebook pages and marketing for yourself. So either you're gonna hire a guy to do that or you're gonna hire somebody to do that. So it just never stops. But so I just wake up every day and thank God for the opportunity. After doing my G code affirmations and my reading and things that I'm learning through this community to set my day, of how to set my day right. After we do that, then man, I have never been more excited to get up and come to work than I am now. And it's been 10 or 15 years since I've felt this level of excitement and this much momentum. And we've done some dope shit in the last 5 years, and I've never felt this good about it.
I love it, man.
And the sad part about that is when we sold that property on Friday last week, we had an opportunity to let 6 people go do what they wanted to do more than be here. So I reduced my payroll by almost $400,000, and we're doing the same amount of work. And I'm like, what the hell was I thinking these last 12 months to have all these people on my freaking staff? But I had them here thinking about growth. And then so the COVID hit and everybody had to pivot, and we had tenants that were not paying rent, and we had contracts over here that fell out, and we had this deal that didn't close, and we had this didn't happen. And so now how do you keep your business going in the middle of a pandemic where people can't go to work and can't pay rent? And how do we pivot? So the pivot was, well, let's sell one property, let's monetize that, let's bring in some cash, let's cut our staff, and let's go from a management company with 300 employees to an asset management company that I can do with 5 people in my office, and we can hire everything else out. Pivot. And so part of what has got me here, with all the trials, ups and downs, and peaks and valleys, and all the dumb shit I've done to myself, is having the ability to be a chameleon. Is what I can sit in any room. I can sit in a room with you with guys with long hair and hard rock and bounce my head like y'all do. I can sit in the boardroom with the guys that got on the $5,000 suits and they driving $1 million cars outside. I can go sit on the stoop in the hood with the guy that's sitting there drinking a 40, and I can still get my point across, and it doesn't matter. So having the fluidity to be able to do that has been what has kept me able and given me the ability to pivot and do this.
So let's talk
And
about.
I'm really good with analogies.
Yeah.
Painting a picture. So when I can paint a picture, that's the best form of sales for me, because I can get you shaking your head and get you bought into the picture. And people buy into us before they buy into what we're doing. And when you learn how to do that and make rapport with people, then the sales job is already done. Don't matter what you're selling.
That's the easy part.
See,
Amen. So let's talk about G4, your group.
G4.
Who's in your group now?
Oh man. Well, we've got what we call thousands of associates, thousands of friends, hundreds of associates, and then a core group of family of choice. So I've got an Apex group that I'm very much a part of, and have met probably only 10 or 15 guys in the group, but have interacted with 40 or 50 people just interactively through our platforms. I've got my 3. So Pastor Keith teaches us men that, first of all, the Bible says a 3-stranded cord is not easily broken. So we have 3 men in our life. We have the guy that we're leaning or gleaming to. We've got the guy that's gleaming from us, and then we've got the guy that's on our level that's going to keep us out of the ditch. And if you've got those 3 people in your life, that'll really be a good navigation tool, again, to keep you aspiring for more, to keep you humble enough to help somebody else, but that guy that's right on your level that's going to keep you from cheating on your wife and beating your kids and that kind of stuff, right? So I've got my 3 men, and then I've got my Apex, my 3 men. I've got my core group here in my office, and then I've got probably 7, 8, maybe maximum 10 other people that are a part of my life through one business venture or one, or another, that are really close to me, that I have the ability to share my dreams with. Because the most dangerous thing ever, the Bible says, casting your pearls among swine. is to cast your dreams among somebody that doesn't support you, that doesn't believe, first of all, in themselves, so they surely don't have the ability to believe in you. And then they're going to look at you and make you think you're stupid because you're dreaming big enough to say, man, let's go buy 100,000 units of apartments. And it's like, make you figure you don't even have credit, no money. You don't even have a house and didn't even know what a mortgage was 5 years ago. Good luck going by one apartment building, let alone 100,000. But there were some people that were crazy enough to believe with me. And we got 3 of them still with me today. And one of the ladies that was there, she was a single mom at 16, had her second kid at 19, her third kid at 21, a white woman from Amarillo, Texas with Black kids. And today she's my second in command, running a $150 million company with a high school education, and a single mom at 16 who should have been a statistic. You're going to be on welfare your whole life. Well, guess how I met her? She was on the board of directors of that other nonprofit, being a servant leader, because the board has to have 20% of its board members come from the community that we serve. So she was one of those board members at that other nonprofit, serving to try to make these affordable communities better for people like her. And today she's the second in command of a company that does just that. That's how we like to change people's lives.
Man, that's amazing. There's so much like this. We need to probably set this episode on replay, because that's like, you brought it tonight. Like that's some heavy stuff. Like that's ordained, and just
it is ordained, Danny.
It's ordained. And Alvin, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and tell everybody how they can connect with you right now. AlvinHopeJohnson.com.
That'll take you to all of my social platforms, and it'll tell you all about our training, some of my background, show you how good looking I am, and all that good stuff. So
that's right. You get the glamour shot.
Yeah, you see I keep looking, and my teeth are
Commodores. Commodore pose, right? Little Lionel Richie, like
dream on dreamer.
Poses.
That's right.
I love it. That's another Hot 99 is brought to you by PhoneSites. You can build a landing page or website in 5 minutes or less. Make sure you get in on it. Make sure you connect with Alvin Johnson, alvinjohnson.com.
AlvinHopeJohnson.com.
Oh, AlvinHopeJohnson.com. Thank you. No, I
Thank
stand correctly. Yeah, you can't be the Alvin Johnson without the hope, right?
That's right, baby.
Amen. Amen.